when you first signed to BKFC, did you see it? Did you feel the vision and see what it's become today?
Oh, 100, 100, 100,000%. And I explain to you why, right? And this is the biggest point that I always bring out when people ask me about BKFC and why. Why do you think it'll grow? Why do you think it'll be as big as UFC or bigger? Like, I'm like, it's gonna be bigger. And I explain to you, it's a very simple concept, right? UFC or MMA overall, ONE FC, Bellator, UFC, the biggest shows out there, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about 5-minute rounds, 3 5-minute rounds, and if it's a title fight, it's 25 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
I'm an MMA fighter. I have 4 titles in MMA. I have a following in MMA. I follow him. You know what I mean? And when I go watch a fight in MMA, and if it just so happens that there's 3 fights back to back with decisions, I'm like this. I'm falling asleep.
Mm-hmm.
I'm falling asleep. You know what I mean? And because in me understanding the game, understanding the grappling sequences, the wrestling, I'm still falling asleep, right? And then boxing, you're talking about 10, 12 rounds, 3-minute rounds each. And by the time you get to the main event, you're asleep. And you're only waiting for the main event, co-main event in boxing, in the boxing world, right?
Yes, sir.
So when it comes to bare knuckle, the reason why it's growing the way it's growing, and the reason why it will continue to grow, and the reason is the weather, man. It's the weather. Sorry about that. Lost you there.
Oh, no
The
problem.
weather threw us. All right. So the reason why bare knuckle boxing, BKC its own, will continue to grow, and I believe it will be the biggest combat sports in the industry, is for the simple fact that this is an anaerobic sport. We're talking about 5 2-minute rounds. We're not talking about 5-minute rounds. We're not talking about 12 3-minute rounds. We're talking about 5 2-minute rounds. What happens? What's the difference? The difference is it's an anaerobic sport. It's an explosive event. There's a reason why we have 10 fights, 10 knockouts. How many times have we done that? So I'm saying? And then for the masses, right? For the masses, it could be somebody watching in their 60s, 70s, and never seen the sport before, right? But if they just so happen to like combat sports, or even if they don't like it, because it's our primal instinct to see this, right? It's our primal instinct as human beings to see competition between one another, right? It's easy to understand for the masses. It's easy to understand for the simple fact that it's quick and it's punching, cuts, knockouts. That's it. There's no grappling. There's no wrestling. There's no figuring out who's kicking better than the other. There's no, what point or who is prolonging the fight and hugging in the boxing fight with gloves or waiting so many rounds. It's action. It's pure action from beginning to end. From beginning to end. And it's funny, right? Because my sisters, my mom, they're big fans of combat sports, right? And I remember one day in the beginning when I first started fighting BKFC, right? I think I did my first show, and then there was a show coming, right? And then my sister was like, "Are you gonna watch the next fights?" And I'm like, "Yeah, but I'm gonna go when it gets more towards the end." What are you talking about? All the fights are exciting from the beginning. and I'm like, you know what? You're right. And I didn't think about it like that, right? And then I started paying attention. It's like, why is it? Because even the undercard fights, right? You'll have some guys that are not as experienced. So what happens? They brawling. They brawling. They're fighting for that check. They're fighting for that recognition. They're fighting for that chance to be seen and recognized. And it's no gloves, and it's only 2-minute rounds. For 5 rounds. So they go ham and use hence the knockouts, man.
Yes, sir.
Back. So that's the reason why we're gonna just keep blowing up, man.